Let's get straight into it because there's plenty to discuss in the world of darts, and we'll start off with our question of the week. And it comes off the back of a week which saw Gerwyn Price go into, to borrow a phrase from John Park, beast mode, winning a second consecutive night of the Premier League and also picking up the Euro Tour title in Leverkusen. But our question of the week is, who is the best player in the world right now? Is it the world number one world champion Michael Smith? Is it the Premier League leader Michael van Gerwen? Is it Gerwyn Price? Or is it, I think it's Other or Otja?
Otcher is really doing well this year so far, but I wouldn't say Otcher is the best in the world right now. I think it is. I mean, it's tough because one is, how do you define now? Do you define this particular second? Do you say this month? Do you say over the 3 months so far this year? And you might get different answers depending on which way you go about that. If we're saying right now being the first 3 months of the year, I think you have to say Michael van Gerwen. He's okay. The lead's narrowed a little bit with Gezi winning consecutive Premier League nights, but he still has a pretty comfortable lead atop the Premier League of 7 points. That's basically a night and a quarterfinal. And that is pretty significant. He's made the final of 5 of the 8 nights, winning 3 of them. He's only gone out first match once, and he did just reach the final of the UK Open and win a Players' Championship event. He's had some inconsistency so far this year. Obviously, we've talked about how at one point he was the lowest average of any of the Premier League players in Players' Championship events this year, but that was a couple bad matches at the start of the year. He's now skyrocketed up the averages to 16 overall in the Players' Championship, and that's really a lot better than it really sounds because of how bad he was that first weekend, where his highest average was a 97. So he's playing a lot better right now, and overall he's as difficult to beat as he's been in at least 4 or 5 years at this point. But what Gezi has done, particularly in the last month or so, has been really impressive. You mentioned those consecutive Premier League nights that he's won. He's won another one, made another final. He's only one final behind MVG, but he has lost 3 quarterfinals to Michael's one. But then you look on the European Tour, which is, okay, it's not on well, I guess technically this year it is on television, but it is on a big stage, and it's in front of a big crowd. And it often could be a hostile crowd. He averaged over 108 in his first 4 matches on the European Tour. Both the matches in the first event, he did lose his second match of that tournament, but he still averaged 108 in that. And then he averaged 109 and 110 the first 2 this. So that was 4 consecutive matches on the big stage over 108. That is something only Michael van Gerwen has really ever done, to be able to play at that standard in that many consecutive matches on the big stage. And it's been a while since he's been able to do that. And okay, he dropped off in his match against Michael van Gerwen. He only averaged 106 in that 6-4 win, then averaged over 100 in the semis before dropping more in the final. But he's been able to reach levels which we really haven't seen from him before. And he's been able to reach that level and stay at it for multiple matches. This is, I think, the best we've ever seen from Gerwyn Price. And considering he's a former world number one, a former world champion, to say that he is right now playing better than we've ever seen him before, that's a scary thought. Michael Smith, I think it's kind of similar to where Peter Wright was 3 years ago after his first world title. I feel like he's now finding where his game is and what he needs to do to push on from that height. I think he will. I think we will see him re-enter the conversation. But right now, I think his game has taken a little step back. I don't think it's that he's not dealing with the pressure well. I think it's that he's having to readjust his focus and readjust his goalposts, because he's reached them. He's become world number one. He's become world champion. And once he finishes finding his place again and finding what he needs to do to drive himself, I think we'll see him reemerge in that conversation. But right now, I think it is either MVG or Price. I don't think it's Smith. I don't think it's Otcher. It comes down then to how do you define right now? If it's the last couple weeks, it's unquestionably Price. If it's the first 3 months of this year, it's MVG. But I could see both of those flipping. We could be saying a month from now, right, in the past couple weeks, MVG's the best. But this year, it's been Price. That's how quickly things can change. And that's how good both of them are playing. I think for Price, his A game is higher than MVG's right now. But MVG has that little bit more consistency overall. But boy, it's tough to separate the two.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And I think if you go back to the World Championships when Michael Smith won the title just after he won the Grand Slam, and the way he beat Michael van Gerwen in that final, running off those 4 sets from 3-2 down to go 6-3 up, it got him to number one in the world. I think many darts fans at that moment in time would have said there is a strong argument for Michael Smith to be the best player in the world at that time. But I think, like you say, he is finding his feet as a world champion, and it's a cliche to say that when players win certain matches, certain events, it can be life changing. But to win the world championship, that is the one that is going to be life changing. And Michael Smith's life, we got a little bit of a glimpse into it last week when you spoke with Ian White, who's been Michael's long-time practice partner, and he said practice sessions with Michael Smith have been few and far between because he has just been that busy, and with the Premier League added on top of that as well. So things do change, and yeah, I think once we probably get towards the end of the Premier League season, he will start to settle down a little bit. And I think at this moment in time, you wouldn't say that Michael Smith is the best player in the world. I think it is between Michael van Gerwen and Gerwyn Price, and they are the top two players in the Premier League at the moment in the standings. And we've seen Michael van Gerwen, the bounce back that he's had from losing that World Final, winning 3 Premier League nights on the spin. He's made 2 more finals. He's won a title on the floor. He missed a match start to win the UK Open as well. And then we've seen Gerwyn Price lose 2 World Series finals at the start of the year. The Premier League, he's now won 3 nights as well. He's in that second spot, and he's 8 points clear of fifth as well. So on course to make the playoffs at the halfway point of the season. And we've just seen him pick up his first senior title of the season as well, that Euro Tour on Sunday. And I think, like you touched on as well, it's the numbers that he's producing as well. And you look back to last week, the Premier League, from an 86 average in the semi-final to 114 in the final. 2 days later, the 109, the 110, the 106, and the last 2 games, it dropped off to 196 for the semi-final and the final. But still in that final, to survive the match darts, take out the 108, the 1 dart at tops, and then in the decider, a 12 darter on throw to win it. That's a sign of Gerwyn Price at the very top of his game for me. And I think when he is at that standard, I don't think there's too many players in the world that can stop him. I think 2 of them are Michael van Gerwen and Michael Smith, but I don't quite think they're playing at that level at the moment. And you look at the recent meetings that we've had between those 3 players, Gerwyn Price, he beat Michael Smith, he beat Michael van Gerwen on Sunday, and he's beaten MVG the last 3 times they've met. And all 3 of those times were last week. They had the Players' Championship on Monday, the Premier League on Thursday, and then the Euro Tour on Sunday. So maybe it is a bit of recency bias. Our poll at the moment, you've got nearly 900 votes on that so far. 58% are going with Gerwyn Price, 33% with Michael van Gerwen, 5% going with Michael Smith, 4% going with Otja, which is a poor spelling mistake on my part there. But I think right now, Gerwyn Price doesn't hold any major silverware. He's not got that number 1 ranking, but is he playing the best out of anyone right now? Based on last week, at least, you would say yes. And I think based on the last few weeks, it's a small sample size, but he's also getting the results against the best players. And the old saying is, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And Gerwyn Price at the moment, he's doing that. So you can't really argue with that either.